Megapixels matter, and that's why I just recently picked up the A7R5. And by recent, I mean about 4 months ago. Now, I've been primarily an A7IV shooter. I take the A7IV to shoot the bulk of my work for the past few years. I use it for my client work, I use it for my personal work, and I use it for social media content and to record YouTube content. With that being said, you might be wondering why I even decided to go to an A7R5. And the answer is pretty simple. I got a steal for this camera that I just couldn't refuse. Back in July, Amazon had a deal on open box and used outlet sales or something like that. And they were just taking off a crazy percentage on this camera. So on retail, the A7R5 goes for almost about $4,000. I think it's $38.99 USD. And I managed to snag it for about $2,500 used. And the craziest part is when I received the A7R5, it came with its original box, had all its original accessories, and the shutter count was 100. 100. That means somebody only took 100 pictures with this and decided to send it back. For what reasons, I don't know, but hey, it's mine now and I'm not gonna complain. I basically paid $2,500 for this, which is only a couple $100 more than this one when I initially bought it, which was about $2,000 when it first came out. The upgrade is very major, to me at least, and I just couldn't say no again to that deal. So now I wanna list out the reasons why I decided to upgrade in the first place. And I know I said a bunch of stuff, but before I go any further, I just wanted to run back and say that this video is in no way, shape, or form sponsored by Sony. I purchased this with my own money, and this is my honest take on both of these cameras that I've used for a while now. So yeah, Sony has nothing to do with this. This is strictly me, and me. And my experiences with it, both professionally and personally. Let's get back to the video. The first reason was the megapixels. As somebody who used to dabble in more video work in the past, megapixels didn't really matter to me. It was more about the video codec. Now, as I dabble more in the photo work, it's become kind of clear that megapixels really do matter for my client work. 33 megapixels when you blow it up on a large canvas becomes noticeable. Like when you really start pixel peeping, especially for someone like myself who's extremely OCD with the work that I do, when you start seeing your work on giant panels and giant blowouts and you start pixel peeping, it makes a difference. So yeah, I decided to move up to 61 megapixels for that reason as well. And another reason I decided to upgrade too was, even though this is kind of just nitpicky at this point, the A7IV has a very low quality LCD screen that, even though it's a flip out, the image quality on it I notice is kind of weak. It's not really good. The A7R5 has a phenomenal screen. Like, it looks amazing. Like, I feel like I just went from standard to high def within the blink of an eye, and it's been very significant. And I never even noticed that the Sony screen resolution on the A7IV and some of their lower tier or entry level tier cameras, I never noticed how bad it was until I started really looking at my FX3, which I'm currently filming on right now. That's how they cut corners in this A7IV. Again, it's a nitpick, but it's one of those things that kind of bothered me when I was doing photo work. As corny as this may sound, that I went to the A7R5 was because this crazy articulating screen. The A7R5 has this ridiculous articulating screen. Like, look at that. Like, this looks like a mechanism that, I don't know, goes on a big screen monitor or something, like something someone custom rigged. This comes in extremely handy when you really need to get those low or high angle shots. This is what happens when you can actually, you know, shoot tall people and look down in your screen and see what you're shooting when you're raising it high up. That logic applies too when you're shooting down low, because now you have this articulating screen that you can flip and get those low angle shots. And it's also nice if you want to do your, you know, portraits and you want to get those vertical videos or whatever it might be. It's nice to have this option to just flip your screen around and just play with it. This screen to me has been phenomenal. I pray that Sony puts it on every single camera that they release from now and onwards, because it's such a cool feature. So yeah, I've been using the A7R5 for about 4 months now. I've taken it for personal shoots, I've taken it for professional shoots, and it's been an absolute workhorse. I have had no overheating with it. Like, I recently did a fashion shoot where I was out there for about 4 hours. I shot 8K video with it. I shot 4K video with it. I just kind of went crazy and tested all the features. Again, it never really got hot, it never overheated, and I was just blown away with it. Something you'll notice immediately is once you take the pictures out and you put it into your editing app, 61 megapixels is like a game changer compared to 33 megapixels. Like, when you need to punch in because some crazy person or thing or object that's in your image and you need to remove it, having more data to play with has been absolutely game changing, especially for me when I need to deliver client work and even for personal pictures. This has been phenomenal, like just the amount of data that it has. But I will note that one of the things that did stress me out was how much work my computer had to put in. The images, when I put it into Lightroom, like actually make Lightroom struggle to read and write it with all the editing that I'm putting through it. I never ran into that kind of issue at all when editing photos. I understand video, but photos, I guess maybe 61 megapixels is a little too much to process even when you have a rigged out computer. And for those of you that are curious, I have a Ryzen 7 5800X with 32 gigs of RAM with a 3060 Ti graphics card in it. So yeah, if that rig is struggling, that just tells you that there's a lot of data inside of the photos. Another thing that I did test too was the 8K video that I mentioned before. I'm personally not a fan of the 8K video at all because the rolling shutter is insane. Like, you move this camera a little bit, you nudge it a little bit, that rolling shutter is adamant. I don't recommend shooting 8K video at all unless you're doing a static shot like this where you're not really moving a lot and you're not really doing a lot of controls and motions and things like that. Even when you're shooting like this, unless you plan on punching in, I don't really see the reason to shoot 8K on a static shot like this because it's so much data that your computer is going to struggle to read it. It's also like not necessary because a lot of the applications or media services that you're going to be uploading it to are not going to render the 8K in full quality. The only reason I see shooting with the 8K is maybe if you're doing static shots for corporate work, like an interview or something, and they want the raw files or the video files, or you're just trying to impress somebody. I don't know. But personally, I don't find the 8K feature useful at all. I tried shooting some static headshots with it, and even then, like, my computer was struggling to edit it. So I just went back down to 4K and it works just fine. Speaking of video, these two cameras are nearly identical. They both only go up to 4K 60 FPS and it's in crop. Personally, I don't shoot a lot of slow mode. I think slow mode is kind of played out nowadays. Now everything needs to be quick, especially when you go down to, like, you know, weddings or social media. So slow mode just eats up a lot of time, and I don't think people really buy into it anymore unless you're like shooting a movie or a music video and you're trying to go full Zack Snyder and get like those smooth, creamy slow mode shots. But even then, like, that's kind of pushing it because at that point you might as well go pick up an FX3, which is what I'm currently shooting on. Like, 4K 60 FPS is plenty for whatever you're gonna do. I shoot everything at 4K 24 or 30, whatever day I'm feeling like. The feel of them are like pretty much identical. They have the same body, they have the same custom features, the same custom wheels, minus the obviously the lower quality LCD on the A7 IV. But yeah, besides that, they're fairly identical. They use the same exact batteries. They have the same amount of inputs and outputs. Now, when it comes to action photography, if you're looking for something that'll catch fast action like sports or wildlife or whatever it is, they only put out 10 frames per second, which means when you put it in burst mode, you're only going to get 10 frames per second. So these might not be ideal for wildlife and sports. They're plenty for me though, but you know, to each his own, right? If you're looking for something like that, you might want to start looking at something like the A9 III or the A1, which offers faster shooting. So yeah, with that being said, I don't really have any major issues with the A7RV. To be honest, the A7RV actually has made me want to go out and shoot a lot more. I know I said that about the A7 IV as well, but the A7RV is really game changing. On a spec sheet, the A7RV isn't that much tremendously different from the A7 IV. The price jump for me was just worth it because this feels like a professional camera. Like, I've taken it to professional shoots and it just does the job very well. And even in post shoot, like when I'm in the editing space, everything that I've shot with this has just been great. The photos have a lot more data now when you shoot in 61 megapixels. So you just have more options to edit and more options to work with more data, whether it's professional or personal. Now, the A7 IV has been my go-to camera for the past few years, and I'm always gonna have significant and special memories with it. I feel like the A7R5 might be replacing my A7 IV as my go-to camera. I still bring the A7 IV with me as my backup cam, and I use it for the majority of like my content creation, you know, when it comes to B-roll and things like that. But the A7R5 is definitely going to be my main camera for 99% of my photo and video work. Like, I've been carrying it everywhere on the go with me and using it for the majority of my work. All in all, is the A7R5 worth the upgrade from the A7 IV? Absolutely. If you can find a steal on an A7R5 like I did, because I know the deal that I ran into was like a miracle. If you're looking to upgrade from anything older than the A7 IV, I say jump directly to the A7R5 just to future-proof it, because Sony's upgrades aren't significant when they move to each camera. So I feel like once you buy a Sony camera, you're legitimately good for like 4 to 5 years, sometimes even 10 years before you even have to make the next jump. But if you already own an A7 IV and you're trying to upgrade to the A7R5, for me, it's worth it. But if you don't got a deal on it and you don't got the dough for it, it's not worth it. With that being said, I'm gonna be taking this out to go do some more shoots because I absolutely love this camera and I think it's worth every single penny. So all in all, I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, please let me know in the comments down below what you found helpful, and let me know if I missed anything, and if you have any questions at all about the A7R5 versus the A7 IV that I may have missed, and I would be glad to have a discussion in the comments section. If you haven't already, please do subscribe, as it'll help me grow this channel out more and just make more content like this. If you own an A7R5, let me know what your experience has been like. If you have an A7 IV, let me know as well your experience has been like. And if you don't own either one, let me know if you plan on upgrading and which one you're eyeballing, and maybe I can help you make a decision. With all that being said, this has been your boy Fong over here at FL Productions, at my studio that I finally put together, even though it looks kind of crazy right now. But yeah, until next time, I'm out. Peace.